Jim arranged to meet me on the roof of a building, where I lost no time in finding out about my first mission. It turned out that I had to destroy the communication center parabola, because according to Jim, the aliens were using it to transmit information reports, inciting the citizens to go to the hospital en masse, protect themselves against a viral epidemic. There, the aliens were using the opportunity to contaminate the people, using creatures like the one that had attacked me. I didn't think I'd have a problem completing this mission.
It's time to do some good old-fashioned communication disruption, which is the entry-level mission for any Resistance member. The enemies in this level are a lot more keen on using their guns than the terrorists were, which actually makes them a bit easier to fight. However, when they do get up close, you'll find that they have a much wider variety of moves than the terrorists did. Now, the variety of moves may not seem very important. You might think it's how hard they hit, right? Well, the complexity of an attack's animation determines how easy it is to read, and because these guys have more complex animations for their attacks, it's harder to time your blocks properly. But not exactly in a cheap way, just basic game design stuff. So make sure you keep that block button down until you're absolutely sure they finish their combo, since it can be deceptive. We had to go looking for that switch, otherwise we couldn't progress straight forward down this pathway. If you came down here normally, you would see a giant red barrier and might wonder what you're supposed to do, until you find out there's only one other path that leads directly to a switch. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not completely sure what the purpose of these riot shields enemies is. They get way up in your face, but your guns can destroy them just as easily as any other enemy, and if you're too scared to attack them with your fists, your grab works just fine. They don't even attack as often as the other guys do. We do get a new weapon this mission, the FAMAS, but it doesn't do anything that we haven't seen already. It's just another semi-automatic weapon. It doesn't seem to hurt as much as the previous ones, but that doesn't really matter because it performs the same function. And it's not like you can be picky about which weapon you pick up in the first place. You just use whatever they give you. So we're going to do something unusual for Hidden Invasion and talk about the story a little bit. You can see right now the people we're shooting are not terrorists, or terrorists with quotation marks around them, because we learned that the terrorists were actually resistance fighters. Instead, the people we're fighting are policemen, and you know, government types. And we can only assume that these people must have been infected by the aliens because they wouldn't be punching us, and otherwise they would have been aware that this communication center was being used for evil purposes. But since they're actively guarding it from us, I think it's safe to assume that the aliens got to them. I would explain taking down the barriers, but it's nothing that really needs explained. There's only one alternate pathway to go to turn the barriers off. Like I said, the mazes are incredibly simplistic. Aside from the wacky cutscenes at the beginning and ending of a world, all we get are these little notifications that pop up in the center of the screen for story. Sometimes it's the character talking to himself, and sometimes it's God telling us which direction to go. It varies. For example, right up here you're going to see a really weird attempt at increasing the tension in the story. Oh no, they sent a helicopter after us, blow up the transmitter and escape through the building. There is no other way back from the roof. Well, there was no other way back from the roof anyway. And the helicopter doesn't actually do anything but fly around in a circle menacingly. Because the text says we need to escape as quickly as possible, you figure they would let us go around the enemies in this one, but that's not the case. The red fist still appears to tell us we need to stop and fight stuff. It's not that bad though, because the time limit again is way over lenient. And this is definitely one of the more linear levels the game offers, so if you get lost here, I'm not sure what to tell you. You can see that some of these character models were used in the intro cutscene, or at least a different variation of these same character models. These are the police officers that were standing behind us when we entered the city. So the arrow will point us straight to a lift, which is our exit out of here, but we can't actually exit until we find the keycard to the lift, though the game doesn't tell us this, unlike usual. We were just attacked in a stairwell, which is terrible because this camera is not a good. I mean, you can almost make out what's happening. I feel this is a good time to say that the Red Fist is obviously meant to mimic old beat-em-ups where when enemies appeared you couldn't advance to the next screen until all the enemies were gone. The problem is that the Red Fist appears when you encounter enemies, no matter where you encounter them at. For example, you don't have to fight this group of enemies in the stairwell. If I would have waited upstairs, they would have come upstairs and the Red Fist would have appeared when they got up there. So the Red Fist mechanic is not very successful at emulating the thing it's trying to, because in beat-em-ups, it stops at the same screen every time, or at least the same area. But in Hidden Invasion, theoretically, you could be stopped anywhere, at any time. Including inside a stairwell, and I'm almost positive the developers did not want me to fight those enemies inside that stairwell. I feel I should talk about the developer a bit more, because the developer is really curious to me, and we're going to be doing a lot of talking about them over the course of this Let's Play. You may already have your guesses about what country Toka is based in and what nationality the developers are, but the developers are French, and Toka was based in London, I believe. Now, I know not every piece of French media is intended to be high art or art house or incredibly groundbreaking, but you can't say that Toka didn't break some stereotypes by making this game incredibly American. Because my only two guesses were America and Russia, because Russia seems to output a lot of games that aren't very good, but that they certainly thought were good when they made them, like Deep Black. But no, this game was made by French developers, and naturally I wanted to see if they had any other beat-em-ups in their line, because I like beat-em-ups, and maybe one of the beat-em-ups they made was actually good. And the answer is yes, oh boy did they ever make a lot more beat-em-ups, and some of them actually aren't bad. They seem to have a fondness for arcade games in general, and one of the head developers of Toka has now moved on to form Hyper Devbox in Japan, where he makes other weird arcade-like games such as Counterforce, which I believe is called Zeus X in Japan. It's called Counterforce in America, at least in the Wii port, which is the version I played, because I had no idea it existed until I saw it on store shelves, and I had no idea that Toka was related to it at all. But yes, at least one of the two head developers is still out there making video games, and he seems to have a relatively sturdy, if small, following. So that's good, because no one liked Hidden Invasion, that's for sure. So we're pretty much at the boss, and you see we have almost no life left, so you must figure we're gonna lose our first life here, and that's correct. But we'll also quickly gain it back, because we almost have enough points for an extra one. Now this second boss right here is Sergeant Barry R, which is a great pun. I love this pun. Sergeant Barry R's gimmick is that he can actually fire enough bullets to lower our shield, which is kind of impressive because no other enemy in the game seems capable of doing this. The downside to Sergeant Barry R's amazing gunplay is that he has almost no hand-to-hand combat skills. He's very easy to pound up close. However, after you finish one of the combos, you want to step away, because he will shove you away on his own if you don't.